Hello, YouTube, and welcome back to A Life of Compounding Interest. Thanks for joining me today. I wanted to take a few minutes and talk about something that's really been on my mind for a while and was one of the first premises of my book, The Life of Compounding Interest, that hopefully will be coming out over the next few weeks. But that idea is that life is just getting more complex, more complicated. And really, a lot of people are struggling to keep up with that because it's not as simple as it used to be. Now, if you're familiar with our channel, we really talk to average people about the problems that plague them the most. When we're talking to the average people, we want to talk about finance, relationships, a little bit of philosophy, and overall just how to define and execute on a good life. So, this idea that the system is smarter than us, my theory is that our systems require roughly a 120 IQ to thrive. And the problem with that is, if you know anything about IQ, the number of people with 120 level or higher are not the majority. So we'll start with just a brief explanation on what IQ is and how it works, but this is one of those rabbit holes. If you find it interesting, I definitely suggest going and looking up a bit about the history and the specifics around IQ. But if you don't want to do that, one thing to really know about how IQ works is it's a distribution. It's not a set numerical score. It is where you fall within the distribution. How this works is a lot of people would take this assessment inside of a population. The larger the population, the better. But at the end of it, they look at all of those scores, and the average and most common score is always going to be 100. If you have a 100 IQ, you are the most average of average when it comes to intelligence. Now, 68% of the population will fall within one standard deviation of that. And so that means that 68% of the population will be between an 85 and a 115 IQ. Now, that leaves 32% of the population as outliers, 16 being below that 85 and 16% being above that 115. So, immediately when I talk about I think that the system requires a 120 IQ to really thrive, what I'm saying is I believe that this system has outpaced really about 80% of our population or better. So when we talk about computing IQ and the assessment, it focuses on three main aspects. One is going to be really your biological horsepower, how fast your brain works, how much you can take in, your short-term and long-term memory, all of those aspects that are just ingrained in your biology. That's one piece. This is the part that's primarily genetic. So chances are you are going to fall within some range of your parents, is what they say. The second piece is going to be how you process information. It's going to look at your rationality. It's going to look at your ability to spot and predict patterns. And then the last piece is centered around your acquired knowledge. And it's going to look at your basic literacy, how you can read and comprehend and regurgitate information. It also taps into basic mathematical capabilities. So it gives you this rough idea of where you fall as an overall person when it comes to intelligence with those three basic levels. So we went over the numbers. I've told you a little bit about my theory, but taking those numbers into account, I want to highlight another statistic. Another statistic that in researching this for the articles that I will link below is that we have a problem, especially here in America. And in America, we look at our population and 56% of our population read at a 6th grade reading level. So we are talking at the level of a 13-year-old, give or take. And that's not to say that people can't read or write or anything like that. What that means is that really we cut off how we communicate at about the age of 13. This literacy rate is going to gauge if you're reading a sentence and you come across a word that you're not familiar with, can you use the context clues to derive its meaning and still maintain the meaning of the sentence? This is really important when you look at that in a large set of text. The other thing that it's going to mean is that when you read, you are able to capture the concepts that are being discussed more than just the words on the page. So you are able to, in some ways, visualize what you're reading. The other just alarming statistic that I came across was 21% of the U.S. population is deemed functionally illiterate. And functionally illiterate essentially means that that person does not possess the reading and basic mathematics skills to function in average society. So these people are struggling. They still may know how to read. They are probably texting and emailing just like everyone else. But really, when everything starts to boil down to that capability of basic reading and math skills, they are going to struggle a bit more. So that leaves 21% of our population unlikely to capture a lot of the information that's being passed in our digital world right now. And even at that 6th grade reading level, all of the flood of information and statistics and complex situations that we're constantly trying to explain and understand is also escaping a large group of people as well. Now, I'm not saying all this to point that Americans are stupid or people are stupid and everybody on this bottom rung aren't capable of living a good life. That is not it at all. But what I do want to emphasize is that every piece of technology that is creeping into our lives every single day is designed by engineers, developers, and the average IQ of these individuals is between 110 and 130. So they are already potentially above that one standard deviation. Those are the people that are designing and creating the systems. But then you have the CEOs that are directing them that have an average IQ between 100 and 130. And they are going to have a higher EQ as they're guiding ways to get this technology in front of the most number of people possible. And so the people that are guiding the creation of such software and creating the software may not have the emotional or intellectual empathy to bring it down to the level of, say, someone with an 85 IQ that reads at a 6th grade reading level. So what is the problem with this? Well, the problem is we can't escape it anymore. If you are an adult who has rent to pay and bills and employment that you have to navigate, everything that we do now lives online. Let's not even touch on the fact that you now have to have internet access just to simply live, but you have to know all of these systems. Where do I go to pay my power bill, my water bill, my rent, my cell phone bill, my internet bill? And I mean, there's a huge conundrum about, well, how do I pay my internet bill if I don't have internet? But nonetheless, I have to navigate all of these different websites and how they work. I have to manage the passwords, and chances are at least one of them is going to have some absurd password requirements, meaning that I have to either memorize or save them. Then when I log in, I have to be able to navigate setting up my profile. And then there's cybersecurity thrown in there that everyone has to consider when they're giving out this sensitive information. And not to mention, there are tons of systems out there that rely on others. Maybe it's how your social security number or tax ID interfaces with all of these other different systems. And so all of a sudden, the concepts that were in that initial IQ assessment are entering our realm right here, just to do very basic things. We have to be able to hold a lot of information in our heads. We have to be able to read the information on the screen and understand it, comprehend it, and follow the directions. And we have to be able to transfer that knowledge, because using a computer is nothing but a big transfer of knowledge navigating different systems. I lean a lot on the tax system here in the US as a fantastic example. The tax system in the US is extremely complicated. There are tons of rules, and really it's hard for the average person to just log on and file taxes unless you have very, very simple, it's just you and a W-2. And these systems really come into play in situations like this. Well, how do I know what I should put as my withholdings at my employer? Because there's not a good tutorial for that, because everybody's unique. So now I have to make decisions. Then furthermore, I have to make sure that I'm watching the calendar to file my taxes on time. And then there are so many other programs out there that have convinced the population as well as the US government that they're better at doing taxes, so you might as well use them and just pay the fee. A majority of Americans pay for some tax preparation, no matter if their taxes are extremely complicated or extremely simple, just simply because they don't know how to navigate it. Systems like this, I don't believe were put in maliciously, but I do believe that they were put in without careful consideration of where everyone is. Now, I've made a career in technology teaching people that are not necessarily tech savvy how to implement software in their lives and their companies. And I can tell you that this is a trigger for anxiety in a lot of people. Whenever they log into a computer and are searching for the keys on the keyboard and trying to navigate those systems, they're afraid to mention that they don't know what's happening, and so they just wing it, or they don't do it at all, opening them up to more and more problems as they go. So what's the solution? I don't know that we have a great one at this point in time. If anything, it's to plead to our governments and our software companies and our employers that while computers are essential to everyday life, they are not how a lot of people think. That there are tactile bits of intelligence in this world that are every bit as valuable as that IQ number. Someone who has the capacity to manipulate their physical world, whether that's the construction worker, the plumber, the janitor, or the parent. That ability to navigate the real world has tons of application and value. And just because these people aren't putting all of their mental horsepower into figuring out how software systems work to get ahead does not really even mean that that is the best course of action for everyone. So for the average person, I think we have to study. We have to get better at utilizing technology. We have to get better at discussing how literacy makes a difference, because it doesn't matter what age you are able to take your reading level from a 6th grade to a 9th grade capability. We can do that. All it takes is reading a little bit more and acting with a little bit of intentionality, because language is the one thing that will unite all of these pieces. Whether you're talking about AI, which are essentially just large language models, understanding the language is going to help in that. Understanding the terminology when you go to your doctor and they say, what course of action would you like to take? And being able to read the words and the side effects and comprehend what they mean. This is the only way that we get better, is to just increase our understanding of our language, get a better grasp on it, and do that consciously. So I hope that this just gives you food for thought. If this reaches the CEOs and the developers of the world, I hope that you consider that lower half of the population that may not be fully geared up to utilize complicated systems. We have to bring things back to a place where everyone can navigate the world and economy in a way that's going to benefit them. That's how people rise out of poverty. That's how we all get a little bit better every single day. And everyone, please keep reading. Don't read the AI, read people. Read your emails, read books, and understand your language. The only way that we get to challenge AI is understanding the language and how it applies to the real world that we live in. So, thanks for listening. I know that gets a little rambling, but again, I am one person that doesn't edit my videos. They really just go straight up. Please like and subscribe. It helps me know that somebody's listening, gives me more incentive to put up more content, and also it's going to help this channel grow. As things grow, I do have ambitions of bringing my face and continuing my voice into this. So your likes, subscribes, and listens really do mean a lot. I do have some books coming out. The Will Is, that's I-Z, is now hitting Amazon. So if you would like a copy of that, it's a short little fiction piece that goes over life and meaning and love and captivity. It's a good, short, fast-paced read. And then The Life of Compounding Interest should be coming out in the next few weeks as well. We would love to continue to build a community. Thank you so much again, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.